Now we have one more term. It's called as big data. Big data refers to the data sets whose sizes are beyond the capability of commonly used software tools to capture, store, manage and process within acceptable time limits. These data sets typically require real-time capture or updates for analysis, predictive modeling and decision making. It is basically a collection of huge data which requires some special tools to capture, store, manage and process. Once this data is captured, it can be used for analysis, predictive modeling and decision making. The big data ecosystem consists of the following components. First, we have the devices that collect data from multiple locations and also generate new data about this data. We can call it as the metadata. Second, we have the data collectors. The data collectors gather data from the devices and the users. Third, we have the data aggregators. The data aggregators that compile the collected data to extract meaningful information. And lastly, we have the data users and the buyers. The data users and the buyers benefit from the information collected and aggregated by the users in the data value chain. Let us try to observe this diagram to understand the different components in a big data ecosystem. So firstly, we have the data devices. So examples for the data devices are your cell phones, GPS, e-book, cable box, ATMs, credit card readers, computers, RFID. We have the video surveillance, the medical imaging and so on. So all these devices generate the data and the metadata. The second component we have is the data collectors, which collect the data from the data devices. So it may be the government, it may be the medical institute, the internet, retail industry, financial institutes and so on. Then we have the data aggregators who compile and process the data to generate meaningful information. And lastly, we have the data buyers who are going to benefit from the information that is aggregated by the data aggregators. Let us try to define information. Before that, let us try to answer one question. What do the individuals and the businesses do with the data they collect? The answer is simple. They turn it into information. Information can be defined as the intelligence and knowledge derived from the data. Let us try to understand this definition once again. Information is the intelligence and knowledge derived from data. In other words, you can call the data processed as information, or information can also be defined as the processed data. Businesses analyze raw data in order to identify the meaningful trends. For example, buying habits and patterns of customers, as well as the health history of patients, can be derived by processing the raw data. Let us look at the virtual cycle of information here. So we have the creators of information which create information. The devices may be digital camera, a laptop and so on. Once these devices create information, it has to be stored somewhere. We may have a centralized information storage and processing unit where the information will be processed and stored. Now from this, the users of information are going to use this information. Now these users of information may once again demand for more information from the creators of information. And again, these creators of information may create new information, store it, and again make it accessible to the users of information. This cycle repeats again and again. So this diagram represents that virtual cycle of information. So let us try to understand the value of information to a business. So first of all, information helps the business organizations to identify new business opportunities. So it may be used to understand the buying and spending patterns of customers, maybe in internet stores, retail stores or the supermarkets. It may also help the business organization to track the customer satisfaction or the services, maybe by tracking the shipments or the deliveries. Second, the information will be used by the business to identify the patterns that leads to changing in existing business. As we all know, businesses need to change their strategies in order to cope up with the changing scenarios, the market scenarios. The information may help the business to reduce cost of operation, maybe by maintaining just-in-time delivery or eliminating overstocking of products, optimizing shipment and delivery. So secondly, the information may also help the business organizations to introduce new services. For example, security alerts for stolen credit card purchases. And also the information may be used to initiate targeted marketing campaigns. So we can target a particular group of customers and customize a marketing strategy for those selected group of customers. An example may be communicate to bank customers with high account balances about special savings plan. So all these are possible only if the businesses have access to the latest information. And lastly, information helps the business organization to create a competitive advantage. So these are how the information is valuable to a business. Let us try to understand what we mean by storage. The data created by the individuals or the businesses must be stored for further processing. This location where the data is stored, we call it as the storage. The type of storage used is based upon the type of data and the rate at which the data is created and used. So depending upon what type of data we are handling and the rate at which the data is created, we can select a particular type of storage device. Examples: for individuals, the digital cameras, cell phone, DVDs, hard disks may act as storage. For businesses, they may use hard disks, external disk arrays or tape library for storing the information. The next topic is evolution of storage architecture. Historically, organizations had centralized computers called as the mainframes and the information storage devices such as the tape reels or the disk packs in their data center. The evolution of open systems, their affordability and the ease of deployment made it possible for the business units and the departments to have their own servers and storage. So every department had their own servers with its own storage. So in earlier implementations of open systems, the storage was typically internal to the server. So the storage was internal to a particular server, which was meant or maintained by a particular department. These storage devices could not be shared with any other servers. This approach is referred to as server-centric storage architecture. The approach where the storage devices is internal to the server is referred to as server-centric storage architecture. Organizations usually maintain one or more data centers to store and manage the information. A data center is a facility that contains information storage and other physical IT resources for computing, networking, and storing information. In traditional data centers, the storage resources are typically dedicated for each of the business units or applications. As you can observe from this diagram, it shows the difference of the two architectures. On the left, we have the server-centric storage architectures where we have dedicated departmental servers with its own internal storage devices. You can also observe the disks that is internal to these individual servers. So this resulted in fragmented islands of storage as well as large operating costs and capital of implementation, as well as resulted in unmanaged and unprotected fragments of information. If one of the servers was down, the data present in that server was unavailable, and also data present in one server was not accessible to the other servers. This was a huge drawback of this server-centric storage architecture. To overcome all these limitations or the challenges, this information-centric storage architecture was introduced. Here, as we can look at the diagram here, we have the similar departmental servers. The major difference is the storage is not internal to these servers. Rather, the storage is centralized. We have a large pool of storage devices which are connected to all these servers using a network called as the storage network. So there is nothing called as server specific data. So any server can access the data of any department. That is the major advantage of this information centric storage architecture. One more advantage is that if one of the servers was under maintenance, but still the data that was created by that server will be accessible to the users or the other servers. In information-centric architecture, the storage devices are managed centrally and independent of the servers. These centrally managed storage devices are shared with multiple servers. The storage devices are centrally managed, which is a huge advantage. When a new server is deployed in the environment, storage is assigned from the same shared storage devices to that server. The capacity of the shared storage can be increased dynamically by adding more storage devices without impacting information availability. Thereby, we can mitigate the information unavailability, which was a huge limitation of server-centric storage architecture. In this information-centric storage architecture, so information management is easier and very cost effective. Let us now understand the core elements of a data center. Any data center need to have these 5 core elements. The first element is the application. An application is a computer program that provides the logic for computing operation. So it may involve providing a set of controls to the user and so on. So application is basically a computer program that provides the logic for computing operations. The second component of a data center is a database management system. A DBMS provides a structured way to store the data in logically organized tables that are interrelated. This DBMS allows us to fetch the required data as and when it is required. The third component we have is the host or the compute. It is a computing platform that includes the hardware, firmware, and the software that runs the applications and the databases. The fourth component is the network. So it's a data path that facilitates communication among the various network devices. When we're talking about the network devices, it may be the compute or the servers, it may be the storage devices or any other interconnecting devices. All these devices are connected using a data path called as a network. And lastly, the very important element of a data center is the storage. Storage is a device that stores data persistently for subsequent use. Whatever data that is stored in these storage devices will be used in the future by the individuals or the business organizations. Let us look at an example of an online order transaction system that involves the 5 core elements of the data center. A customer places an order through a client machine over a LAN or a WAN to the host running an order processing application. The client accesses the DBMS on the host to the application to provide order related information such as the customer name, the address, payment method, products ordered, and quantity ordered. The DBMS uses the host operating system to write this data to the physical disks in the storage array. The storage network provides a communication link between the host and the storage array and transports the request to read or write data between them. The storage array, after receiving the read or the write request from the host, performs the necessary operations to store the data on the physical disks. Organizations usually maintain one or more data centers to store and manage the information. A data center is a facility that contains information storage and other physical IT resources for computing, networking, and storing information. In traditional data centers, the storage resources are typically dedicated for each of the business units or applications. The next key requirement for data center element is data integrity. Data integrity refers to mechanisms such as error correction codes or parity bits, which ensure that the data is stored and retrieved exactly as it was received. There should not be any corruption while the data was stored. The data should not corrupt when it is being stored in the storage device of a data center. So every data center should ensure the data integrity so that the data is retrieved exactly as it was stored. There shouldn't be any corruption or unintentional modification of the data while it is stored. The next key requirement of a data center is manageability. All the components of a data center should be managed easily. A data center should provide easy and integrated management of all its elements. Manageability can be achieved through automation and reduction of human intervention in common tasks. So we can have automation for generating notifications or generating alerts as and when it is required, thereby reducing human intervention so that the entire data center infrastructure can be managed easily. The next key requirement of data center element is capacity. Data center operations require adequate resources to store and process large amounts of data efficiently. When capacity requirements increase, the data center must provide additional capacity without interrupting availability or with minimal disruption. Capacity may be managed by reallocating the existing resources or by adding new resources. So whenever the capacity requirements increase, the data center must provide additional capacity without interrupting availability or with minimal disruption to the ongoing business operations. And the last key requirement for data center elements is the performance. All elements of a data center should provide optimal performance based on the required service levels.